of business that you guys are running, and in the different dimensions and the facets that are there, we are particularly focusing on finance today. All right, funding is coming up later, so we're going to focus on finance for today's thing. So when I say the word finance, um, it's a difficult word for me to say, because just like you guys, I was uh, an entrepreneur who started up a company, and it was a word that I didn't understand anything about, right? So before we go ahead, I thought we'll do a little the Menti poll last time. So you all can have your mobiles. Please take your browser and type in menti.com, and then Alan is going to take over and do the Menti poll now.
Yeah. Everyone, so hi again. So the Menti code is on your screen right now. Are you all able to see it? Yes. Oh, thanks, Kaki. Yeah. So menti.com, and the code is 72189432. Oh, I can only see the two of you are there. That's great. Just wait for probably 30 seconds. And okay.
Alan, are you presenting now? Because we are seeing your construction slides. I mean, basically how it looks like, content and all that. So,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Oh, I am presenting actually. Sorry, I don't know why it's not.
We see your mouse going around.
Oh, you're still not able to see it?
Nope.
That's strange.
Oh, just click on view results.
Sorry, one second. Like present. Why is this? I am presenting actually. It isn't.
Yeah. Are you using two screens?
No, I'm just using one screen.
Okay, then you don't need to share the screen actually, unless you want to share the results, because I'm not seeing the results. There is one thing called view results. Come to the right, a little below that. Oh, you moved away. Yeah, that one. Can you click on that? Because we're not able to see that stuff. No, we are seeing everything else except the slides where they can see, and we can see the results.
Okay. Well, let me try. Like, let me go to the slides, and then people can maybe responding. Yeah. So,
okay.
Are you able to see the first question? So if you can maybe start putting in your answers, you should be able to see it. For some reason, the full screen mode is not working, but yeah, I think this should be fine. Which successful business or business person would you like to imitate, and why?
It's not presenting. I'm not able to get to the slide. Even on Menti, I'm on the mobile. Can you click present again? Yeah, now it's working.
Okay.
Hi, sorry, could I get the QR code again? It's just something went off.
72189432.
Sorry, one second.
Yeah. You want the QR code? Are you able to see? Is it changing now?
Yeah, I can see the presenter has changed the slide. It's gone back to instructions. Now it's come back to
Okay.
the other one. Yeah.
72189432 Kaki.
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Yeah. I like second answer. Donald Trump. In English? No. Great. Steve Jobs, Donald Trump. Super confident. Yeah. Elon Musk. I think like we have the standees in the YouthNet office with Steve Jobs and Elon Musk. So yeah, definitely those guys had some terrific influence. Mukesh Ambani. Okay. Ratan Tata. Ganana, please let me know if at any point you want to jump in and just give some comments or anything, or I can just keep
Very
it.
nice. People are putting in. Has anybody put in the reasons also?
I think only for Trump we have this super confident.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
Very nice. We can move to the next question.
Next question. I hope is the slide changing. Has the slide changed for everyone?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
Okay, you have three options there. One is I do it myself, or someone helps me do it. Wow. Hey, there's somebody from YouthNet. I think Nikkei has sent a message, I think. Can you check the chat?
Yeah. God of the links.
And when I mean somebody helps me do it, which means that I still do it, but somebody is helping me. But when I say someone does it for me, that the other person does all the finances. Um, how do you manage the finances in your business currently? Alan, I'm not able to see the results.
Is it?
Yeah, the screen sharing is not helping at all. Whatever you shared on the screen is not helping. Can you go to the next tab on this one and show the results?
1 second. I'm not sure why it's not.
Yes, now I see it.
Okay.
That's what we want. Oh, nice.
Okay. That's great. So we can go to the next question. Anna.
Yes.
Next is a series of statements on basically just understanding your confidence in managing business finances. So you can read through each of them and it's a slider. So you can slide for each of these different statements. Can you see the results, Anna?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. Okay. I think most of us have answered. Thanks, friends, for this. This is helpful.
Yep.
Do you have any comments, Anna? Like anything that you want to share based on this?
No, I just want to look at how people are located, and that's very nice. We can
Yeah.
look at the next question.
Yeah. I think this is the last question for now. So what are your top 3 financial challenges that you're facing in your business currently? Friends, maybe if you want to like put in 3 challenges, if you can just use a comma to put all 3 in the text box, then all 3 would come. If you just put one and come, I'm not sure if you'll be able to respond again. Okay, great. Some very good answers coming here. Love the emojis. Decisions, money and money. It's great. Yeah. So I think
Nice.
that's about it, Anna. Yeah.
That is good. Thank you. Thank you all for responding. And I know it's very different when we do training online versus training in person. And in person, there's a lot more we can discuss and do things. But now we'll have to make do with what is there online, right? So what are we going to do today when we look at finances? So what we're going to do is we're going to look at uh, we're going to try and understand what is finance. I know some of you have a brief idea, or at least you're running your business, you should have some knowledge about finances. Why is it important? Why is finance important to your business, and the basics of finance? We've done the Menti poll, and let's just look at a definition. Can one of you read this, please?
Finance is the lifeblood of every business. It's the art of managing money, how it flows in and out, where it's invested, and how it impacts the bottom line. Finance is the key of making strategic decisions, ensuring sustainability, and driving growth. Whether you're a startup entrepreneur or a seasoned business owner, understanding finance is essential to make informed choices that lead to success of your business.
You know, I used to play badminton when I was young. I used to play for my state. We are talking long time ago, maybe 30 years ago. And when I used to play those days, I used to hate when the coach tells me run around the court. The moment you come in, you're so excited, you want to play the game. You have your guys you train with usually, and you want to beat them in a game. And I come there, and then the coach will say, run around the court 20 times. And boy, I used to hate it. He'll say, you need to warm up. I'm like, no, man, I hate that. Similarly, when the word finance was put up, uh, when I started my business, I started in uh, one of my businesses. I started in 2003, where I was completely independent. I didn't have a partner or anybody. And before that, I had started a couple of businesses, and I never took care of the finance part. I never looked at the finances. But here is a time when I'm all alone. I've started a company, and I knew nothing about it. And then after about 8 or 9 months of running the company, a friend of mine got in touch with me and he said, "Hey, Gun, what are you doing?" I said, "I've started a business." Then he said, like, "Oh, what is your revenue model?" I'm like, "What?" I'm a consultant. I consult on lighting and audio visual systems. Uh, he said, "Yeah. Your revenue model is what? Consulting fees, or you do commission on sales?" I said, no. We only do consultancy fees." And then he went on to ask a few more questions. How do you decide how much you charge people? How much profit are you making and all that? It just occurred to me that I didn't have answers for some of the questions he was asking. And then I went and I told him, "Hey, Royce, uh, I don't know answer to all these questions. So can you help me do this?" He said, "But you started a company, you should know how to do it." I said, "I know, but in my whole family, nobody's ever had a business. Neither was my dad or anybody. Uh, we've had a business. So I'm the first generation businessman and I need some help." So my friend, he used to live in Dubai at that time. He came down and he was running a division for a very large business group. So he was running one of the companies and he started that company from zero and he took it to something close to 60 million or something like that in about 3 years. So he came down and we started talking. And then he told me, "Hey, you need to know about this and this and this and this." And I'm like sitting and going, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I took help from him and he started coming, visiting me every 2 months. He will come on a weekend, come on a Thursday night. He will stay with me for Friday. He will stay with me on Saturday, and Saturday night he'll leave. Sunday he has to start working. So that used to happen. Every 2 months he would come, and I learned a lot. And some of the things I learned was this: finance aspect of business involves managing money. That is what it is primarily. The word finance means how money comes into your business and where it is going out. To understand that is the basic finance. And when you go a little step further, it includes budgeting, tracking income, tracking expenses, um, assessing investments. So you've got some money coming in, you're going to invest in something. How do you invest? And top it off, ensure cash flow. One of the big challenges I always faced was cash flow. In my early days, I would get projects, and the projects, they would pay me in phases. So one project I would sign for a couple of lakhs, and the 2 lakhs will come over 6 months' time. But then I had to pay my rent every month. I had to pay my staff every month. I had to pay my electricity, my internet bill, my mobile bill, my travel agent, everything I have to pay every month, and travel agent every 14 days. But my bills will come much later. So what I would always do is I would always be lagging in payment. So there are times when my staff will get their salaries 2 months later, or 1.5 months together I'll pay, or 2 months together I will pay. That was always a problem with cash flow. So one of the aspects of finance is understanding cash flow. And then finance is the backbone of decision making. If you are a business person, If you are good in finances, you can make super quick decisions, and that will guide you. The financial reports will be able to guide you how you operate your business, and it can plan and set you up for planning your growth. And whether it's securing funding or optimizing your profits or navigating economic shift, there are policy changes that are happening. Suddenly they say, okay, you have to pay 28% GST. Any sort of those policy changes or economic shifts, if you have a grasp of finance, your business will thrive. And I can tell it to you from my own experience. uh, Knowing finance, I used to hate the word finance. And every time my friend used to fly down from Dubai once every 2 months, I would actually be sweating because he's going to ask me questions. And what I had done is I didn't have any money to pay him. So I gave him a part of the company. I said, Royce, here is 20% of the company that's yours. And you come and ask me these difficult questions. So he used to come and ask me these difficult questions. And boy, it really sharpened me, right? Why finance? I don't like it, but finance is absolutely essential. If I want to know where my business is going, if I need to know if my business is actually making money or it's a dud, or am I just losing money, knowing finance is super important for you to know the status of your business. Second, understanding cash flow. Um, there are times you would get into what is called as uh, you will send the invoice, the customer will not pay you on time. Some customers, if you have government customers, I used to work with government projects. They used to have a 90-day credit period. If you send an invoice, from the time you send an invoice, 90 days later, you can go collect the money. So if I send an invoice for 2 lakhs, I need to know it's not going to come after 2 days, it's going to come after 3 months. So understanding that cash flow, when money is coming in, is very important. And that can happen only if you know finance, at least the basics. Making decisions. I need to buy a laptop. And there was a time when I had a very big customer, and this guy was staying in a nice 5-star hotel. And he had come, he wanted to visit my office. I went to pick him up in my car. At that time, I was driving a very small car. And so this guy sat down in my car and he came, saw the office, met all my staff, had lunch with us, and I was going to drop him back. When I was dropping him back, he said, hey, Gun, we are paying you a lot of money. Can't you give me a decent ride? And I was like, what? So I immediately called up my friend Royce and said, like, Royce, this person said this. He said, Gun, I've been looking at the finances. I think you can go and pick yourself up a car. So we went and we bought a car, and I did not take a loan. We put 100% cash down, we picked up a car. We were able to do that, take a decision on buying a car because we knew what the finances were, whether we had the money or not. We knew whether we can manage the coming salaries uh, after buying the car. Imagine I buy a nice car and then there is no salary to pay the staff. It would have been shameful. But that did not happen. We were able to manage because the financial knowledge we had helped us. Resource allocation, strategic planning, planning for your business, everything involves finance. Credit management. In my 3rd year of business, I noticed that about 60% of my clients always delayed my payments. They would, after invoice, they would say 30 days, but they would not give 45, 60, 70 days, constant follow-ups every time. Then what happened was there are some clients who kept coming back. And then the second time I signed a contract, I made changes to my contract, to my style of operating. And I said, you have to pay so much in advance, and I will deliver my concept. And for the concept, only if you put in so much, clear my invoice within 10 days, I'm going to send you the detailed design. So when I started doing that, I think it took about 2 years' time, but my collections were 96%. I was collecting on time. And so survival of the business, there were times when for about a 6-month period, we didn't have any business. And especially during the 2008, when there was a crash and things went bad, we didn't get much of business. A lot of people are just holding on to the money, but our business survived because because of the financial wisdom which Royce had guided me. I was able to save up money, and we didn't owe anybody anything, and we were able to sustain the business. I didn't have to fire a single staff, right? Another thing finance does is also helps you in negotiation. Imagine you're going into a negotiation and the customer is asking for a heavy discount, right? Now, if you know the amount of money that's in your bank, that gives you a major strength to negotiate, right? If you know that there is no money in the bank, then you will want to uh, give more discount and take that order at any cost. But if you have substantial money sitting in your account and you know other projects are coming, you're able to project that, then you can be really confident, say, I'm going to just give you 2% discount. That's it. You're not afraid to even lose the order, and that confidence will show. And I remember I used to be struggling there was a season when I signed up 22 projects in my second year of operation. 22 projects I signed, 15, 20,000, small projects, small cafes and salons and all that I started doing. But then I started realizing it's taking a lot of time, but I'm earning very less money. And then I was able to make a decision, and I was confidently able to negotiate when I knew my financial condition and then charge more money. And I could pick and choose my projects. And then at a later stage, when I invited other people to come and invest into my company, when others invested and bought shares from me, because I had the financial knowledge, when they asked questions, I was able to answer, and I was able to explain what is the cash flow, what is my balance sheet looking like, how is my profit and loss. I was able to explain to them all that. So knowing finance is like absolutely important for you. I mean, it's like, in a very crude term, if I were to say, it's like chopping vegetables when cooking. You can throw in everything as it is. You can throw a whole chicken inside. You can throw all vegetables inside. Something will come up, but it's not going to be something that is really great. So finances are really essential to help you with your business. With that said, I wanted to look at, you're all guys looking at redemptive business. And redemptive business has got a lot of responsibilities that is there, especially in the financial side. There is stewardship, there is transparency and integrity that is there, employee welfare, how do you treat your employees, community impact, what are you going to do with the community, how do you manage your debt, how are you managing investments, are you going to manage customer relationships, how do you deal with them, your invoicing, is it uh, what you could normally invoice, or is being excessively greedy, all those things, and discipleship on top of it. We have a lot of things that are there in a redemptive business. We're going to look at this at a later stage in detail. But when you look at a redemptive business, we're going to look at 4 things that will really, 4 terms I want you to get into your head, right? I'm just going a lot of teaching. Please bear with me. I'm going to be getting into the interesting part in a little while. There are 4 things that really will impact our businesses and our finance, actually. Like, first thing is constraints. Like all businesses, the moment you say, I'm going to start a business, you're starting out with some constraints, things that kind of hold you back. 2 prime things I can talk about is time and money. How you spend your time and how you spend your money. Where you're going to get your money from. Those are constraints. Now, the second thing is a strategy. How are you going to plan or strategize to overcome or to avoid your constraints? How do you navigate your constraints so that you don't get stuck in business? I said 22 projects in a year, and I had no time with my family. And I was burning out. So I had to give up projects, right? So that was my strategy. If I had to give up projects and I need a certain amount of income, that means I need to increase the amount I charge for each project. So on my 3rd year, from 22 projects, I cut down to 6 projects, but 6 mid-sized projects, not micro or small projects, 6 mid-sized projects that paid me enough, and I was able to manage my cash flow as well. So it paid me regularly, and I was able to decide on that. So I was able to strategize. And another word you need to know is assumptions. For example, if you need to go from wherever you're staying to YouthNet office for a meeting, and if I tell you you need to reach there by 9 o'clock in the morning, you'll tell, oh, from where I'm staying, it's going to take maybe 30 minutes to reach because of the traffic. Based on your experiences and the traffic condition that you've seen, you assume it's going to take you 30 minutes to reach. And if I take one, I can go maybe 5 minutes quicker. Instead of taking a car, if I take a bike, I will reach another 5 minutes quicker, right? So these are assumptions you make. And similarly, you'll make assumptions in business also. And when you are making your projections, that's important. And the milestones. What is a milestone? Milestone is something that increases the value of your company. Let us say in 1 year's time, I want to achieve a milestone where my company is earning 3 crores. And another milestone is my company achieving not just 3 crores, but 40% profit margin or 25% profit margin. You see, the value of the company goes up. When you go to somebody and say, hey, we've achieved a great milestone. What is a milestone? Oh, we are now a 3 crore company. You see that there are constraints, there are strategies. You strategize to overcome constraints, and you make assumptions, and then you project and you strategize to reach your milestones. And when you're a redemptive business, all of this, you look at it through the lens of the gospel. And we're going to be looking at more about the redemptive business in the coming days. Today about finance, I want to talk about a couple of things. How many of you planned up for your startup capital? Can I see a show of hands? Like there, you can have your expression and you can show me How many of you planned and invested something to start up? Yes, Kaki, you started something. Yeah, very nice. What about others? Right. Kaki, since you said that you had, when you started up your company, you had to put up some money up front, what was the funds used for? Can you unmute and speak? Yeah, thank you.
Primarily, it was to buy certain equipment,
Right.
laptops, furniture, just office supplies.
Very true. So, when you start up a business, there are certain things that you need to do. My sister-in-law is now setting up her boutique here in Hyderabad, and she's moving from the Northeast because of the situation in Manipur. She's starting up a business here. She had to take a place on rent, a shutter space on rent, and then she had to do the interiors of that. She had to get some carpentry work done, get some furniture, and so she had to invest in that. So there is a startup cost, and there was some planning she had to do, right? Now, Kaki, you've been running your business for a while. Now, the startup cost, whatever capital you had put in, maybe 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs, whatever it is that money still around or is it gone?
The initial startup cost is now, I think we're pretty much done with it.
Yeah, so that's what happens. The startup fund is to help you start up. It's just going to start you off. But then after that, you need what is called as working capital, right? And I don't know if you all are aware of it. Can I see a show of hands on your expression if you know what is a working capital? All right, no worries. Um, Working capital is the money you need to run your business on a day to day, week to week, month to month basis. The capital you need to keep paying your rents, keep paying your uh, staff, and all that. In case your business doesn't give you money, there's going to be some time from the time you start your business, from the time when money starts coming in, there's going to be that period where your business is not paying for your the sales are not paying for your business expenses, but you need some money to continue. That is called the working capital. And it's very important that you have startup capital to start up the company, but you also need working capital to keep it going. Now the in thing is uh, EVs, electric vehicles. One of my friends has just come home. He's come home in a new EV, and so I asked him, how long will your charge last? Oh, he said I can drive up to 180 kilometers without a problem. And after that, I need to charge again. So working capital is like that. Your startup capital might last, the initial charge might last for a while, but when it gets over, the next set of money, the next charge that is there, you need to go forward is the working capital, right? Now, a worksheet on that. Let me just stop my screen share and let me show you a startup budget template. Okay. Okay, can you see the budget template? Can I see a thumbs up at least? Yes, thank you. So if you look at it, I'm going to zoom into this side. So you're starting a business and you're going to have a set of costs that as you start up, right? As you start up, you're going to have administrative costs, cost for registering your business, cost for filing your labor permits and all those. Your location, you need space for rent, and then you need to do initial marketing. You would have done your research and stuff like that, and then your pre-launch labor expenses. Before launching, there will be labor that will come, right? And then there are other expenses that might pop up. I've just put the very basic stuff here, right? And if you look at it, on the other side is the details of the stuff. Each of these expenses is broken down here. So you can have a look at it, what it means location. So you need to get the internet, you need to get the telephone, you need to get the furniture, equipment, hardware, software, other installation fees, inventory, how you're going to do your security, your stationery, and all other things. And when you look at marketing, you need to look at your logo, your branding, advertising website, printed marketing stuff, all those things. And pre-launch labor expenses, if you're going to hire people, how are you going to hire, placement agency, training, and stuff like that. And others like launch party and stuff like that are there. So you look at it, there are these expenses that come up at the startup level. But then when you go into working mode, when you start working, you're not a startup anymore, then you're going to have other expenses. Can some of you unmute your mic or at least use your chat to type out some of your monthly expenses that come up regularly? Whether or not you have business, there are certain monthly expenses that are there. What are some of the business expenses that you pay? You can just type in the chat if you don't want to unmute and talk about it. Yeah, you have Atho said like about 70,000 is the amount, and Amen says rent, current bill, internet, salary, transportation. Uh, you have to pay these. Yes. Just 2 days back, I just paid my AutoCAD licensing fee. And if you're a company that runs on using software like Photoshop or AutoCAD or one of those things, you need to pay up. Yeah, some of those things are there. What else can you think of? What about if you are producing something, you have a cost to it? Yeah, there is maintenance of all the stuff that is there, your machinery, and even if it is a computer, there's upgrades that are there. And you also have purchasing costs, right? And you also have sales expenses. You have to travel to meet your customer, or sometimes you'll have to call, make a lot of calls to meet your customer. So there are expenses that are there that can come in. What I'm going to send you is what I'm going to do is send you these template so you can also look at your own costs and you can start understanding a little bit about the costs you have. It's a simple way to understand how much money is being spent, how much you spent when starting up your company, how much you are spending on a regular basis to keep the company going, right? And Let me share. How many of you actually draw up budgets? Because when you answered that Menti, when I started with, hardly one or two people are doing budgets. Does anyone do budgeting regularly? Budgeting basically means planning where every rupee of your money is going to go. Especially in the business, you're going to plan every expense out. Where it's coming from, where it is going out. You need to know that, right? And there's another word called projections. We need to understand this. It is helpful. Budgeting is a short-term thing. You can budget for a year, and projection is a mid to long term. You project for 3 to 5 years. And budget is mainly for control and planning. All right, for your internal use. Okay, money comes in. I need to budget for the next computer. I need to budget for the new software that is launching. I need to plan for a UPS. I need to plan for a new set of lights or a new camera or new machinery. You budget for it, right? It's for your control. And budgeting is usually very detailed, whereas projection is very high level. When I do my budget, in a year, I can actually tell how many projects I'm going to sign up and how much are each client going to give me. But when I do a projection, it's more an overall thing. Approximately, I will do 8 projects in a year, that kind of a thing. It's an approximation. And 2 years down the line, I want to grow up, so I'm scaling my business. I'm growing up there, right? And then budgeting is fixed. One of the things that my friend Royce implemented in the company when we did the budget, he said, whatever you want to buy, anything, let us sit and agree it at the beginning of the year. But once the budget is done, don't move from it. Just stick to it. And boy, we were able to really do well because of that, right? And budget is more about internal focus, whereas projections are about your market and your sales. It's an external focus. Projections deal with how do you receive income mainly. But whereas budgeting deals with how do you spend your money, what you get. And sometimes we spend money we don't have, right? So how is that going to happen, right? So we're going to look at a budget example. So when you look at your budget, we are going to see how money comes in. You see, I've added 2 columns here. And let me just, oops, has it gone out? Wow. Just a second, guys. All right, you're able to see my screen? So when you look at budget, you're going to tell, hey, so $30,000, $25,000, 60,000, maybe in rupees you can put it. And then the year end, depending on when your year beginning and year end is. So in India, we do from April to March, April 1st to March 31st we do. In some other countries, they do from January to December. In some countries, they do from July to June. So depending on how you do that, your quarters are divided. April, May, June is one quarter. July, August, September will be another quarter like that. So what is the sales that you are budgeting for, how much is going to come in. And then you start planning for the cost for that, right? How much are you, the beginning inventory, what's the cost inventory that you have? Cost goods purchased or manufactured. What is the shipping charges? What is the labor, right? And what are the other expenses that are there? And ending inventory. So you start with, let's say, 100 pieces of, like somebody is doing a handicraft thing. Let's say they're doing a nice decorative machete or something like that. You start with 100, but you're going to end with just 4 pieces. So you put that in, then you will know the cost of the goods sold, right? And there are non-operating income. If you have money in the bank, that'll earn interest for you. If you have your own office space and you're renting out some part of it, that'll also earn some money for you. Another income that can come. Sometimes, let's say Kaki is running a nice website and he's given some Google links to it, and that will start paying some money. So you can put that in. So all your total income is going to be listed here, right? So one part of your budget is the income part, right? And then another part of it we're going to look at is the expenses. So you plan your expenses. Like we looked in the previous one, there's a budget amount you make, right? So you plan how much is your accountant getting paid? How much are you going to spend for advertising? You remember I told you a word called assumption? The first budget you start doing will probably involve a lot of assumptions. You're not going to know everything about everything. So you're going to assume things and put it in, right? And then depreciation. So depreciation means you buy something, let's say Kaki buys a new computer and the value of the computer drops down by 25% for next year. If you buy a car for your business, the moment the car rolls out of the showroom, the value drops by 20%. You can't sell it back. Oh, I bought the car for 15 lakhs. I want to sell it back for 15 lakhs. Sorry, it's not going to work. They won't take it back. You just need to drive out of the showroom. Go back. Sorry, we can't take it. Right? So those kind of things that are there. So you see a whole lot of expenses that are there. What you start doing in budget is you plan detailed for every expense. And then finally, you will come with the total non-recurring expenses and recurring expenses. Both will come. You will get your total expenses. Now, how your business is going to do or not, just with your budget, you can initially get a simple idea how your business is going to do. By just looking at your income and your expenses, you will know what is going to be your net income. Are you going to make profits or not? Just by doing a budget, a simple budget, you will know. Some of you might have done a personal budget. You're earning so much money, you're spending so much money. Simple like that. You're going to do for your company. I'll send you a template for this as well. But when you look at something like a projection, sorry, I'll get the projection thing as well here. Are you able to see my screen? Do you see the screen now? Yeah. Oh, thank you. Sometimes it's like funny. Thanks, Alan. Your video is on. Everybody else is off. So I don't know if people are there or not there. uh, when you look at projection, it looks very different. It is not a month-on-month projection or just for 1 year I've made a projection. The projection is for 5 years. So you're trying to see not how the business is going to do in 1 year, but how is it going to do over an extended period of time, right? So look at that. The number of pipeline I put, or its sales in the pipeline, right? And the value of the sale goes into each column, right? And then what is the growth rate of the pipeline every year? How much am I growing? How much is my sales going to grow? How much am I converting? Is the conversion rate higher? When my company was new, in my first year of business, I had only 2 clients, just 2 people. One was a government project, another one was one hotel in the city. And after that, my second year, I had to do something. So all I did was, like I told, I took 22 projects, but I was just taking projects. I want my name to be known in the city. So I just started taking a lot of projects. Value was very less, but anywhere in the city, you go to any architect, they would know a lighting designer by name Gun. That's how it was. That was my goal. And I was able to do that. My amount I made was less, but I was able to do that. So my conversion rate was high because I was approaching more clients. And my number of annual units, this is for a company that is into selling products, but my number of projects I got. The first year, I had 2 projects. The next year, 22 projects. And the next year, I came down to 6 projects. And then steadily, I was able to take up 6 projects for another year. And then I was able to grow because I grew my team. I started hiring people and I was able to take more projects. So, and then accordingly, the revenue would grow. So this is a projection for you. Budget gives you an idea of a short term, how's the business going to do. But a projection is going to give how your business is going to do over an extended period of time. Now, if you look at the budget, I've added one more column here called actual that tells against the budget. If you're budgeted for an expense of 500 rupees and you're spending 5,000 rupees, the difference is 4,500. So as you start tracking, that will tell you how the business is doing. So business, you do a monthly budget, monthly track the actuals. On a month wise, you will know how your business is doing, right? So why finance? I'm just going to stop here because I want you to ask some questions. There are so many other things like balance sheet, profit and loss, cash flow statements, and all that. We can look at it. I'll give you the templates for what I've taught now. But business, if you're running a business, you must know at least the basic level of finance. If you have the basic level of finance, you will know how your business is doing. And the next step is if you want to know a little bit more, if you want to grow a little bit more, I would encourage you sign up for some courses or you get trained under somebody. So then you will be able to optimize costs. You will know where to spend less, where to spend more. And if you want to make redemptive decisions, if you want to donate money to charities, if you want to give people more job opportunities by hiring interns, you can make those decisions when you have slightly more advanced level of finance knowledge. And if the third level I would say is if you're looking at investors, if you want people to come and invest in your company, if you want to scale, not just grow, but scale, 10 times, 20 times, you would need that much more working capital. Like a friend of mine, just recently, he opened a processed meat shop, like sausages and salamis and stuff like that. So for one shop, the guy invested about 45 lakhs. All the equipment and everything together he put in. The demand for it was so good, the response is so good in the market. Now he's planning to do 20 more stores in the same city. So that is scaling up. And for that, he's planning to tie up and ask for investors to invest. And he's going to get his investments because that guy knows how he's going to make money. His financial fundamentals are solid. He knows everything about his finance. So if you want to get into that level, I would even say go further, not just learn for yourself. Get yourself maybe a CFO, or if you're not really up for it, or get yourself a mentor who's going to guide you through it. So it's really important. So if you're saying, I'm okay with my level of business, it's a small business, that's also okay. You can hire somebody and get it done, or get a consultant to work, or you can get a full-time person working as a CFO as well. But whatever said and done, finances and knowing finances is absolutely critical for your business, right? So I want to open up for some Q&A. Do you have any questions? If you have questions, you can type it on the chat.
Hi, sir.
Comments?
I have not exactly a question, but I think I really like the template that you have provided. I've been doing this project economics, which are quite similar to the one that you've shared, the template and the things that you've shared. And then, it was, for me, it was very clear what you have been trying to say, what you have been trying to teach us. It was really nice. And thank you so much for that. Not really a question. I still do have so many questions, but those things may be in person. I'd love to ask those things in person, but an overview of it, since I've been doing things similar to that with project economics. I just felt I really like the template and the way you're trying to explain it to us. So it's great. Thank you.
Thanks. What about others? Any questions? You want to type something in the chat, or we've got that group that is there on the chat, or we have it on Signal. So you can just, if you think of a question, you can always put it in. I'll send this presentation as a PDF as well, so you can have it. And I'll send those 2 templates that I said I'll send you, so just for you to have a look at it. Thank you, Loli, for the question. Out of the revenue generated, is it important as well to invest some to maybe in a mutual fund or a stock? All right, that's a very nice question. When I started my business, what I started doing was, one of the first things that my friend Royce came and told was, separate your personal income and your business income. So what I started doing, I started taking a salary out of the company, because one of the things that mistake I did in the early stage of my business, any money that comes in, I'll take it and spend it off. So there was no drawing the line between what was personal and what was company. It was my company. Let me spend it any way I want. But he came and explained to me that you can either run it like a grocery shop, where anything that comes in, you can just spend it, or you can run it like a company where you have certain controls and certain procedures which you follow. Another important thing what business knowing finance does is it helps you control where your money goes out, right? So then what I started doing was I started taking a salary, and from the profits that came, which I calculated every quarter, I was able to set aside 10% of it towards giving, towards charity, like more like a tithe. I was able to give 10% out, and then out of 30%, I was able to manage all my expenses. And another 30%, I put it up aside for savings. I just started creating a fund for the company. We just called it an asset fund. We started creating, and the balance 30% that we had, we used it to pump it back into the business for growth. The first one, 30%, I managed my expenses. The second 30%, I set it aside for a fund. And the third 30%, I set it aside for my growth, for buying things immediately and setting up for growth. So that's what I did. And if you think investing in a mutual fund or a stock is going to be helpful for your company, you should look at it, because again, it's a financial decision, and it'll be good if you have somebody look at your accounts, or you look at your accounts, and then come up to that decision. Brian, do you have something to add on to that? You're muted.
So the question is, whoa, sorry. Al and I are in the same room. Apologize. I think in terms of investing in, the question was whether or not you should invest your money into a mutual fund or something, right? Yeah, so I'll give you a couple of perspectives. If you have investors in your money, investors in your company, like a venture capitalist or something, they're investing in you. You're much more risky than a mutual fund, right? So why would they invest in you? Because you should bring them potentially better returns than a mutual fund. So I think your expectation as a company is that the better deployment of your cash is investing it back into the business versus putting it into a mutual fund, for example, because you should be able to return on your own capital better than that. Okay, so that's as a general rule of thumb. The majority of your excess capital should go back into growing your company, because if you're growing your company well, you'll be getting a better return out of doing that than putting in the market. That being said, there is a portion of your money that you want to hold back as a reserve. So whatever your safety cash is, or the money, and that's really, I don't know what benchmarks you might want. Is it a month's payroll that you want to always have in the bank? Is it you have what's called a working capital cycle. So the amount of time between when your payments and when your creditors don't pay you, so what I like to think of from a scenario perspective is, I play out in my mind some of the scenarios that could happen to my company. And I say, okay, if we lost these XYZ big customers tomorrow, how much cash would I need to make it through my next payroll, right? Because there's a certain amount of time you have before you would have to start letting people go and all. So anyway, without getting into too many details, you make a calculation yourself on how much cash reserve you want to keep in your company. And that money you would want to put in a safe place. That you could put in a mutual fund. So when I see the investing your money, I see that as a cash reserve. I don't see it as a strategy in growing your revenues, though. I don't know if that helps. Yeah.
Thanks, Brian, for that. Like Brian said, it's good to build up an emergency fund. When I was operating, we had a 6-month emergency fund that will take care of all expenses. So even if there's no income coming in for 6 months, we could manage. So that was really helpful. And that actually shows up on your, that gives you a lot of confidence. If you have, out of the income that's coming, you're putting aside some money that helps you. But like I said, I had to put money into growing my business. So that was thanks, Brian, for that answer. If there are no more questions, I'll hand it over to Brian.
Hi, sir. One question. So we try to access certain business, the credibility, not only the credibility, the operation, scale of operation of a business, not only by looking at the balance sheet and so on. The reason being, most of the entrepreneurs, they don't actually do the transaction, all the transaction from their bank account, their current account, or their personal account. So in order to access the operation, scale of operations, besides the transaction that they are doing in their accounts, bank accounts, how, I mean, what can be some other tools that we can access their scale of operation? Am I audible?
Yes. Brian, you want to take that?
Yeah, I was hoping you didn't say that, but Nikki, I'm not quite sure I've understood your question. So maybe could you just rephrase a bit, because I was trying to understand what you're asking.
Okay, right. So not necessarily as a startup, but for us, how do we actually see the scale of operations for a business run by the entrepreneur? Because most of the time, the entrepreneurs usually don't really do the transaction from their bank account for all the things, for all the business operations that they do. So what could be some other tools where we can actually understand or see the scale of operations that they are doing?
Are you asking how to fund scale, or you're asking how to envision scale, or something else?
How do we envision scale? I would say not necessarily a projection.
I think it's more about assessing
Yeah.
a company.
So if I had my investor's hat on, I would ask you where you see your business growing in the next 10 years, for example, or next 5 years. And then I would wait for you to give me your answer. And then I would say, what would it look like to try to grow that 10 times faster or 10 times bigger scale? And then you could go away and rethink how your business goes. And then I would say, hey, what would it look like to see this grow 100 times? And so in asking that question, what the entrepreneur or what you guys will realize is you can't just, it's not a matter of just hiring 10 times more salespeople or 100 times more salespeople. Yes, you could grow that way, but it's very linear. But if you want to see this hockey stick or like this type of growth, you actually have to think about it in a different way. So I think that's one, I know I'm not directly answering your question, but there's probably no limit to the scale that you can envision for your company. It's limited only, again, I mean, it's a bit to walk that, it's limited only by your imagination, right? Like when Mark Zuckerberg funded Facebook, like, I don't know what scale he thought it was going to get to, but I don't know if he would have imagined it was going to take over the world, right? So, but like, yeah, that's a long-term, like imaginary thing, but like maybe in terms of short-term planning, one way to imagine scale, like one very important tool that you'll have to get used to is you'd have to do market sizing, right? So if you imagine whatever the product is, for example, if I'm trying to think of besides cocky, okay, so sorry, with the faces up. 1 second, let me. Okay, so sorry, everyone's got their camera off, so I'm just double checking on the names. So Atoho has the real estate company, and it's based on a certain number of rentals that he's trying to facilitate. And Toho, like, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's based on certainly the number of rentals that are done in a year and capturing a portion of that and facilitating that. So when you're sizing your market, you can think about, well, how many houses are rented in a year in Kohima? Well, you can't generate more revenue than that. So that's the upper cap of your. Now, what percentage of that market do you think you could capture, right? So this is a ways of sort of projecting what scale could you grow at with your current way of thinking. Now, if you wanted to scale that more, what if you expanded to Dimapur? What would that look like? Now, what's your market? So, yeah, all that being said, and this is a thought exercise, given your current model of operations, can you scale outside of Nagaland? So thinking how far your operations can go, what market you can tap, and then sizing that market and realizing that that's the cap on the market, right? So for us as a company, as Krishi Star, when we were selling, we were going through this. We were thinking, okay, we want to sell this product, and we were thinking like, okay, we want to sell this at Big Basket. We want to sell it online. But to get a sense for how much that could scale, I did some quick research on the scale of the e-grocery market, and it's not very big. In the grand scheme of things, I think 90% of the fruits and vegetables in Mumbai are still delivered through these roadside sabjiwalas. I don't know what you guys call them, but the informal market of people delivering fruits and vegetables on the side of the road is still 90% of the market in Mumbai. And I think modern retail is like close to 10% of the market, and e-commerce is like 1% of the market or 2% of the market. So if I'm thinking about selling a product that's only going to sell in modern retail and is only going to sell in e-commerce, the cap on all I could ever sell is 10% of Mumbai, right? Like, I'm never going to be able to capture those other markets. So that's the way, I mean, that's when you're thinking about scale, I think market sizing is an important exercise to go through. I don't know, Nikkei, was that the question that you're asking?
I think it has answered some, but one of the, question is also about, let's say an entrepreneur said he is currently operating about 10 to 20 lakhs, right? How do we know that what he's saying is actually true? In some cases, maybe we can assess that the scale of his operation, what he's saying is 10 to 20 lakhs. We might be able to assess that through the bank statement at times. But some of the entrepreneurs don't really use bank transaction for everything that they do in and out. So what I'm trying to ask is, how do we actually know that they are operating around maybe 10 to 20 lakhs? Besides the bank statement.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Nikkei, I'm struggling because I'm listening to you speak through Alan's computer, which is across the room. 1 second now. Do you want to? Okay, Nikkei, like, can I just put the volume on mine? Okay. I apologize. Alan and I are in the same room, and I'm listening to across the room. But Nikkei, if I'm understanding you correctly, what you're saying is if an entrepreneur is telling you they're making 10 lakh and they don't have bank statements, how do you verify that they're earning 10 lakh? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I mean, yeah, this is a diligence thing. There's a couple of things that, and it depends on the market, right? Like, one is just like a dummy check on there. So there's certain questions you can ask them that would help you understand whether or not they're really earning that much, which is like, yeah, things like market sizing, things like just asking them questions about like their customers. Like, one of the things, and this is true, especially if they're in B2B, ask them the names of their customers and you go talk to them, right? So most B2B companies are probably earning most of their revenue from like a small handful of companies, and you can literally go talk to those companies. So when someone was doing diligence on my company, they asked me for names of my customers and they went and talked to them. Another thing you can do, I mean, this is all just part of diligence, but like what I've seen investors often do is separate the founders from the team and talk to the team. So if I'm sitting here telling you I'm making 10 lakh and then you go and ask my head of marketing how much revenue they join next year, he better say somewhere around 10 lakh. If he says 1 lakh, which they will, because like, do you get it? Like, if you ask 2 or 3 people within the organization the same question and you're not getting a similar answer, then that's also a way of really understanding if something's going wrong. Yeah, I mean, these are a couple of the ways to do it. Yeah, without bank statements and without receipts, and you have to rely on talking to people basically. But I'll give you so I could see some of the counter arguments being, okay, the entrepreneur doesn't have a very big team, or but then the entrepreneur is probably potentially manufacturing something, right? So say they're telling you they're buying honey from the farmer. Go talk to the farmer. Ask how much honey he sold to this guy, right? So you can basically talk to all different, up and down the entire supply chain, especially if it's a product, the suppliers, the customers, and the team. And if they're all selling, and you know their margins, so you could calculate out how much product this person's moving. If it's a services organization, then you could clearly talk to the customer. Right. I mean, there's probably, if you have use cases and tell me an industry, I could give you like more specific ideas, but as a general, these ways should work for most companies. Yeah, I don't know, Gun.
Yeah, I think that answers it. Thank you. Why am I asking this? Because we've been trying to assess those things besides going the typical banking way to finance entrepreneurs. So we want to close that gap. So, and one end is also to understand the scale of operation of the entrepreneurs, so that accordingly, how do we balance the fund that we are also giving it to them? Maybe some entrepreneurs might be working, running around 10 lakhs or so. So for these people, we can give certain amount of funding accordingly. For someone who is running at 1 lakh and they come asking for 20-30 lakhs, that doesn't just read daily also. So we're just trying to actually assess those things. So that is the reason I was asking. Thank you.
I would just talk to stakeholders. Like, there's got to be somebody they're interacting with that would also know the numbers in some way. It could be their customer,
Right.
It might be their advisor, it might be their partner. If you talk to enough of them, eventually you'll find out, are they telling you the same story or not?
I think what Brian said, I really like the way he looked at it. Just look up and down the food chain, where he is getting buying the raw materials from. Go ask them how much material has this guy bought from you, and go and ask the guy he's given as a customer. Go and ask him how much have you bought from him. That'll give you a fair idea as to where the business stands. And I think once you're giving a funding, you can also set it as a prerequisite that you set new controls and say that from now on, you're not going to mix business account and your personal account. Every transaction has to go through the business account and has to be invoiced so we can track your business. So you might agree on let's say, a 30-40 lakhs funding, but you don't need to release everything unless you see those controls in place.
Yeah, I like this, Gun. I mean, I'm just brainstorming with you. You could have multiple tiers of funding. Say like, okay, if your books are not audited, this is how much we can give you. If you go and give your books audited, then we can increase that amount. So,
yeah,
you kind of policy like that encourages them to get their books online.
Okay. Thank you. I think that really does help. Thank you. Yeah.
Brian, are you closing?
Oh, yeah, sorry. I was just excited because I think this is our world record for getting questions. So it was very, it was very invigorating to get questions from the group. So thank you. Nikkei has really stepped up the question game this time. And Nikkei, happy to I know I want to make sure we let people go, but happy to engage with you additionally for more questions if you're having more in this area.
Yeah, I think we'll do a follow-up. We'll do a follow-up.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna close this out really quickly. So similar to the slide that I showed you yesterday, you know, now if you've decided that finance is important to you, if Gun has convinced you finance is important, what does it look like? So if you look at the top here, I know it says types of virtual CFO services. These are some of the areas in which they can help you. I think Gun has mentioned a lot of these. So what I did is I just grabbed like a random list of services from somebody that I found that was doing sort of a virtual CFO thing. And I said, okay, and this were the things that they were listening that they were doing for their clients. Okay. So yeah, so starting from the right this time, if you want to outsource it, bookkeeping, like if you want to go happy medium and like, I think outsourcing your bookkeeping once you decide to register is important because I don't think any of you guys want to become accountants. So outsourcing bookkeeping to somebody, the virtual CFO concept, like I mentioned yesterday with the virtual HR concept, and then leadership coaching, like if you want to just outsource certain aspects of your, sorry, forget leadership coaching. I think this is a holdover from HR slide. The middle is same as yesterday, you know, talent pipeline to hire. The one difference in the way I've done it today versus yesterday is I've put in blue some of the areas where if you're interested in these areas, you could just drop myself, Alan, or Gun a note, and we can actually connect you right away to people for these discussions. In terms of the do-it-yourself, the two things I've added that weren't there yesterday, one is there will be a lot of online courses on things like Udemy or Coursera if you want to just take an online course. And there's also one book that I read during my MBA called Entrepreneurial Finance, and it's by one of my professors, Stephen Rogers. And I thought it was quite a nice book because he really makes it simple. Like he talks as if you're an entrepreneur that doesn't understand much about finance, and he teaches you about how to look after your finance. So it's not probably the most sophisticated book in the world. Like you won't learn all the ins and outs of finance, but you'll at least get a grasp of some of the basic concepts. So yeah, you can check out this book. I don't get any commission, don't worry. And that's it. So I know we're a couple of yes, Stephen Rogers is also Captain America, but this is a different Stephen Rogers. Yeah, so we're a few minutes over time, so I don't want to hold you guys. Maybe we can close in prayer. Alan, do you want to close us in prayer? Yeah, I'm gonna mute it and all.
Okay, let's pray, friends. I thank you again, Father Lord, for today's session and for all the learnings. Thank you for Ganana who did this session for all of us. Father, I pray that, Lord, that you would give us grace to handle our finances. You'll give us insights into this. Maybe for some of us, it's very difficult, oh Father. I pray that you'll bring the right people into our lives, would help us, oh Father, to organize our finances well. And that every company that's represented here, oh Father, every entrepreneur, be it for their work or their personal, I pray that in Lord, their finances would be streamlined, and Lord, and that you would give us, Lord, stewarding abilities to manage it well and to bless the people whom we work for, the customers, and the world at large, oh Father. We thank you, Father. Be with us until we meet the next time. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Thanks, guys. All right. Thank you, everyone.